colleagues.
Thank you, sir.
I would like to share the screen.
Sure.
Yeah. So is my screen visible?
It is visible, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, perfect.
Okay. So I hope I can start. The participants are joining slowly. So the topic of the presentation today is fuzzy logic and neural network applications in electric vehicles. As Professor Others pointed out, we have worked in electric vehicles for various applications at VAT. And one of the project is at Royal Academy, UK. We are collaborating with them, and then we are developing an electric vehicle. And also, over the years, we have used the tools like fuzzy logic and neural network for research applications. So I thought this can be the right platform to share our experiences with the participants. So with this short note, I would like to show the objective of this presentation. So there are three parts here. One is to highlight the control system applications, where we use intensively this fuzzy logic and neural network in electric vehicles, and basic principles behind that, because this can help the future researchers can use this tool for different applications. And if time permits, I would like to show a small MATLAB demonstrations, how we can apply this in the software. So with this objective, there are three parts. So one is I would like to start with the context and of this logic, why we have to use this, and then the basics, and then the final part is MATLAB demonstration. So the aspect here is, we as colleagues and faculties, we come across various engineering systems. So one quick example is, I would like to show various examples here of engineering systems, as many faculties from mechanical engineering may know the machine tools. So in machine tools, we have certain inputs, and you can see some outputs. Like you could see here, this is a machine tool where you remove some material and you manufacture some components. So here you need to give certain inputs to the system, and you will be getting some outputs. Okay, and the interaction between the input and output, you could see the graph downside. It will be something complex which we cannot understand. Okay, this is one example of mechanical side. In the similar way, if you could see for electric vehicle applications, will be predominantly using electric motors. Again, it can be seen as an engineering system where you have certain inputs like current, voltage, pulse width modulations, flux, load, or something like that. And output is speed, torque, what is the efficiency of carrying the load, and then heat. Again, here you could see the downside. The graph here is what is the connectivity between speed and torque at different conditions. It will be somewhat difficult to understand. The thing is, there is a complexity in connecting these input variables to the output variables. So I would like to show a few more examples of engineering systems which we come across. Again, an IC engine, you give some fuel, load, air, and ignition time, and the engine gives us torque, speed, heat, emissions, likewise. So we can bring out many engineering systems in this way, but what I'm trying to address here is, there is a core complexity in connecting these variables. When you have multiple inputs and multiple outputs, what is the underlying function behind that, which will be a tough part to understand. Okay, so in the context of electric vehicles, for example, an automotive system, there are multiple inputs in the roadside, vehicle dynamics, external forces, and tire pressures. So this can be the input for electric vehicles. And the system has to respond to these inputs, and it has some yaw rate, slip angle, aligning torque, and lateral force, because it has to move on the road. Again, now the connectivity here is how we can give these inputs and how we can connect an output, because we need to have a proper connection. Then only we can manage these engineering systems. We have to engineer the system so that it will lead to our own performances. We need to meet that. So from these examples, what we could understand here is an engineering system can be considered as a input-output system where you have random disturbances may also happens, and you also have some control variables. Okay, and also the complexity behind this input-output systems. There are some unknown disturbances, unknown system dynamics. We may not have partial knowledge. We may not have a proper idea how the systems are working together. So under these conditions, like how do we handle these uncertainties connecting these systems? That's how fuzzy logic and neural network helps us. It helps us to build the connections between input-output by means of a core mathematical background. That's what I'm going to explain today. So uncertainty, it means that it can be in different forms. One is fuzziness, vagueness, and ambiguity. These things are prevailing in engineering systems. Okay, so to handle that, normally as an engineer, what we will do is we will be having some robust control systems to meet the requirements, irrespective of these disturbances which are happening. We will be developing some control systems. So you could see the block diagram of a control system here. So you will be setting some references. For example, the speed has to be set at particular speed. But when you have more number of passengers coming in, or more load is there, or some external disturbance is there, there will be some changes. Those changes will be addressed by a controller. So even an error E is there, the controller will suppress that and it will give it to the plant. And on the other side, you could see the disturbance will be happening at the outside conditions. So the controller is the major part of an engineering system where it uses the sensor data, and filtering will happen because it has some noise factors. So then it will be trying to address how to correct these errors. So the major aspect of this robust control is you need to have a proper mathematical model of the system. Then only you can have the proper gain and proper values for controlling the systems. Normally, we may not have such a kind of mathematical model. Normally, because of the system dynamics, the mathematical model development itself will become a challenge for us. So to bring a proper idea about this control system, so this block diagram will give us an idea how we can control a process. So you could see here there are different elements in different colors. So the process or system or electric vehicle or a machine tool or a motor needs the sensor data, which needs to be amplified to some level. And to reduce this noise and interferences, you need to have filters or conditioners. And to process it in PC, you need to convert that signal into analog to digital. So this is called analog to digital converter. And this information will be fed to controller to control the process or the actuators. So this is a major aspect of control systems where it is applied in varieties of engineering systems. And our focus is on electric vehicles, how we can control certain parameters of interest. Okay. So normally this controller will use hard computing. It means it will use some analytical models of the systems, and then it try to give the output. But these models will not be accurate or precise enough to give the corresponding output. So I would like to say that the input-output mapping becomes a tough challenge when you use these kind of simple mathematical equations. Like we have a spring mass damper systems where we use a second-order partial differential equation to model the physical system and try to take the output. So sometimes we'll have an assumption of these conditions. We may be eliminating friction here. Some of the disturbances we may not be including. So the output which we get from these equations may not be hold good for the final output. Okay, the controller has to handle these things. So there are limitations with these approaches, like inadequate models. We may not have precise knowledge on disturbances, okay, external disturbances. So that gives a kind of new approach where how to handle these things. So there is a famous quote on this part of the technique where you have laws of mathematics. It may not be certain because of these challenges. because it doesn't refer to reality. Okay, so this is quoted by Einstein. We all know that, but how can we handle this? So the handling of these kind of challenging engineering systems of these complex interconnections can be done by soft computing tools. Okay, this is what our focus or context today. So the soft computing techniques are of different kinds. So you could see here, one is approximate reasoning and functional approximation. We can give some approximate reasoning when you don't know how the connections are happening. So under this approximate reasoning, you have this fuzzy logic, and we also have another model where you have functional approximation, where you have neural networks. So how we can use these tools? Okay, so fuzzy logic, I would like to give a small definition on this. Fuzzy logic is a computational model of human inference and reasoning for decision making under uncertainty. So this is a tool where it is widely applied in electric vehicles or many engineering systems for giving proper reasoning or proper decision making under uncertainty. So there is a framework is there. I would like to address later in my slides how this system works. Okay, and another tool which is a focus here is neural network, which is again a brain inspired computing tool. It recognizes the underlying functions. So we are struggling to connect the input variables to the output variables, but this structure like neural network, it gets the input values and it gives you the output in some mathematical transformation is happening here. I would like to address in the subsequent slides. So these two tools are widely used as a part of artificial intelligence, machine learning, or we could say that as some soft computing tools. So it is used for developing intelligent systems. So with this background or context, I would like to show how these tools can be applied in electric vehicles. Some of the slides are available. We may not take more into it because we will focus more on the basics and how we can apply it in MATLAB. So we'll focus on that. I would like to rush through some of the slides where it can apply in electric vehicles. So I hope the entire faculty development program is focusing on these electric vehicles. You have different elements here. So one could see electric traction motor, which gives the force which is required for propelling the vehicle. It needs a controller because it needs to have a corresponding voltage or current has to be given according to the conditions. So you need to have a converter, okay, cooling systems, chargers, transmissions, and battery pack. So all these things are there. The connectivity here is I would like to show a small block diagram to start here. So you could see major elements here. A charger will be there to charge the battery because it may drain over the time. So there should be a controller to control the charge itself. A charge controller will be there, and you cannot charge it for a longer time or for a threshold which is to be there. So there should be a protections and driver for the drivers for the motors, like DC motors. And here you need to give it to the mechanical shaft which will transmit to propel this vehicle. So these are all major elements. Many of us know this. So just to enhance our ideas, these are all some of the block diagrams, how the connections can happen. Okay. So there are certain calculations behind this, how the traction motor has to be sized, like what is the motor capacity. So it depends on the force which is acting on the electric vehicle. So electric vehicle can move on a slope if we assume that. So it has to overcome the wind velocities, okay, its own weight and its own inertia, friction on the roads. Okay, so when the slope increases, again the traction force has to increase. So because based on these calculations, one can understand how much force it has to be given, and based on the force you can select the motor. Okay, so there are different parameters available for connecting this. So based on this, we could say there are two energy flows happening in the electric vehicles. One is acceleration and braking. Okay, we can driver will accelerate at a particular time, and sometime will be braking. These two are the things, or the energy flow which happens in the electric vehicle or in the normal automotive vehicles. So when you do acceleration, all these elements has to work synchronously to give you the corresponding demand given by the driver. Similarly, when you brake it, accordingly the system has to work for you. So to manage these two, you need to have controllers. So when you need acceleration, you need to give higher voltage. When you apply brake, you need to reduce the voltage. So there should be a switching systems. Not only switching in a simpler way, but you need to have a proper controller. Okay, so controller in a sense that apart from this energy management, you also give steering. Okay, so steering subsystem, acceleration, deceleration. So all these things has to be connected. You need to have a proper mathematical model before we start developing the system. We will be simulating this. So all these connections and the variations has to be simulated. So I think we are at the point right now. What is the role of controllers in electric vehicles? So you could see the block diagram again here. See, we pointed out two things. One is acceleration and braking. So this will be managed by controllers. So one is called the energy management controller, where you have the battery charges has to be taken very seriously and it has to be given in a particular way. So that will be given understood by the controller depending upon the inputs, which you could see different inputs are joining in. What is the rotational speed? What is the current signal? What is the corresponding battery status? Whether it is a braking signal, whether it is an acceleration signal. So all these things will be sensed by the sensors, and accordingly the controller will give the corresponding output to the motor. Okay, so you have a motor here. Again, for the motor, you need to have a DC-DC inverter. So to give proper charging to the circuitry, as well as how much voltage it has to be given, will be managed by these power electronic systems, which will control these brushless DC motors, which will give the transmission to the differential mechanisms to the wheels. So with this framework, I hope one could understand what is the use cases of controllers. So even earlier I addressed the input and output management is very tough here. We cannot have a simple mathematical equation here. So and intelligently one can use fuzzy logic and neural network in these kind of controllers. We can manage the system much better than the controllers which uses mathematical equations or hard computing. Okay, so I think neural network and fuzzy logic is used in many research publications. So I have taken a small diagram here. You could see the motor, okay, the controller which uses fuzzy logic and neural network, which maintains the particular speed irrespective of the changes which is happening outside, maybe depending upon load or the disturbances. So this is how one can use the fuzzy logic and neural network. So specifically for battery management alone, one can use this fuzzy logic systems. So you could see the connections here: battery monitoring, battery state estimations, and overall battery management. You need to give a proper electric control. So this control can be done by neural network or fuzzy logic. Okay, so I'm just rushing through some of the slides here. We may not be focusing more on this battery management system using the electronic control systems. Okay, charge control using DC-DC converters. So here you could see this. There is a fuzzy logic control. So this gets two inputs like battery state of charge and error current, and accordingly it gives the pulse width modulation to maintain certain level of voltage or current which will be given to the motor depending upon the changes which are happening. So this has been applied. So this is for charge control. Okay. Similarly, we can apply similar controls for electric motors also. So I pointed out there are some inputs and outputs for electric motors. So again, here also you can manage this motor by controlling the voltage which is given to it depending upon the inputs which you get from sensors. Okay. So again, neural network is also applied for various applications, mainly for autonomous driving. You know, currently we have autonomous vehicles where you need to steer the vehicle according to the obstacles. You need to move away from the road signs, or you need to follow the path. So you could see right side, left side, rear, front. You have 4 wheels are there. So the torque and speed, if we vary here, you will be able to change the direction of the vehicle. So here the neural network can be used to give a proper voltage which needs to be given for the particular motor, so that you can give a proper steering for the vehicle. So this is neural network based steering control. Okay, traction control, overall braking with the torque itself, how we can control for a vehicle. So again, there are applications. Okay, so I think I'm completing part 1 here. I think we have some timelines also. Up to 1 o'clock we are going to discuss. So another 1 hour is there. So right now what we have seen here is the background behind fuzzy logic and neural network and electric vehicles, control systems. Okay, so from now on, I'm going to switch our discussions. What is the basics behind this fuzzy logic and neural network? How the system works here? Okay, there are certain inputs and outputs. How fuzzy logic handles that and how it works. I hope I can move on. So, any questions at this point, or can I move on? Participants, any questions are there?
Participants, if you have any questions, please ask based on part 1.
Okay, fine. Maybe these are all basics at this point. We haven't discussed elaborately on this because I know these are all only the context and background. So our focus for here is what is the core aspect of fuzzy logic and neural networks. Some mathematics are there in this. I would like to share this. We have published papers using these tools, and many of our colleagues and faculties are also will be using it. So I would like to brush up some of the basics here. Fuzzy logic and neural network. So fuzzy logic is a buzzword. I think in many there are many engineering applications are available. Even for electric vehicles, we have highlighted some of the control systems. So it mainly focuses on how to handle this data when you have uncertainties, when you have some kind of complexities in the data. So again, I would like to bring the definition again here. So it is a computational model of human inference and reasoning. So it's basically how we think and how we take reasoning when we have some challenging conditions. So we are able to take decisions and we are able to move on. So in the similar way, fuzzy logic also uses an analogy of human reasoning. So I would like to address what is that human reasoning is. So that helps us to take better decisions when uncertain conditions are happening. Okay, so the prime example again here is the electric motor because of electric vehicles which we are using it here. So what is the current voltage or pulse width modulation for the given condition I could use for saving energy, for saving power, or for better ride? So one cannot decide it because conditions will be changing because of road inputs. At a particular time it may change. So the change which is happening at that time may not be predicted by a mathematical model earlier. So you need to have a very flexible arrangement. So as a human mind, any disturbance, whichever it happens, we are able to manage it. So in the similar way, if a controller uses fuzzy logic, it'll easily manage that. You have a proper framework here. So what I'm trying to address is, you could see downside, there are some graphs. So you could see the graphs here. These graphs are very complex. You could see different colors are there, and what is happening here, one cannot understand. How do we handle this data when the changes are happening? The system is non-linear, or the changes are not predictable. So fuzzy logic has its own framework here, where you have this kind of uncertainty, how to handle multiple connections. Okay, how to handle that. So I would like to give a very simple example here. So you see a small crunch of pens, pencils, and mix of many things. That's what an engineering system where you have multiple connections. So how do we handle this? How can we handle these complexities or connections? Okay, that's a point where how to handle this. So simply you could see here, we can use set theory. So we have studied set theory over the time in our courses. set theory can be used for reducing complexities. So fuzzy logic is mainly about set theories. Okay, so where you formulate different sets for different datas, and then you will be able to connect to the outputs. So that makes sense, because you have some mix of things are happening. So how can we approach this? So the mathematical tool here is set theory. We know that set is nothing but objects of similar properties. So you know that which are all the things are happening in the similar way. You will be able to group it properly. So you could see from this example, I'm grouping the markers alone in the one bunch, and pencil alone in one bunch, and these blue pointers are in one bunch. So now it becomes much more easier, even it is complex. If I use set theory, I'll be able to handle it. Okay, so that's a point of fuzzy logic, where you use sets here, sets in different forms. Okay, set in a different form we'll be using it, but that is the core part of fuzzy logic. So with this, I would like to show the overall block diagram of fuzzy logic, how it handles. Okay, you could see a small framework here in different colors. So one is called fuzzification, second is rule formation, okay, rules, and third is defuzzification. Okay, what is that? It does is, you see one side there is input variables, and the other side you have output variables. So in any engineering system you have these two, but when you bring this block here, this entire arrangement helps us to connect. Okay, so whenever there is a variation happens in the input side, in the fuzzification, you will be using some sets. So whenever the data comes in, you will feed it to the particular set, and you will be able to manage that. Then that set alone will be taken. You will be able to infer the particular set by means of certain rules. So I would like to show why we have to formulate rules here. Through the rules, you will be able to connect the input to the output. So one set to the other set, you can easily map it. So whenever the changes are happening, particular set alone will be taken in from the input side, particular set from the output side will be taken, and you will be able to map it. Okay, that helps us some kind of clarity whenever the changes are happening, which we have shown with a simple example where some mix-ups are happening. You will be able to use sets, so you can easily map it. Okay, so the major aspect here is the central part. So you don't worry about what is fuzzification and defuzzification. It's opposite of these two. One is fuzzy, it means the complexities are there, you are handling it, and again you are defuzzifying it. You need to defuzzify that, you need to clear it out. So that you are doing in the opposite sense here. In the central part, what it happens here is, that's what the core aspect of logic. So we talk about, we have talked about fuzzy here. What is that logic? It means that if something happens, what can be the outcome? So that is a logic, where that's how the human inference comes. So if this happens, then we can do this. That kind of if-then rule, you can use it in the set theory form, and you will be able to map it. Okay, I hope I conveyed something here, how the system works here. Let me go ahead and explain much better how this works. So the first part is dividing the truth. It means that complexities are there, you divide it by means of sets. And second thing is intelligence. You use your logic. What is the input and what is the output? You use some logical operations. Using if-then statements, you are able to connect it to the output side. You come to the conclusion. Okay, this is what it is. Okay, so these three are the aspect of fuzzy logic system. Okay, so some of the mathematics, I think many of us know this classical set theory. So here we'll be using fuzzy sets. Okay, so we know about set. It means a bracket. You have some collection of items, but fuzzy, it means that some kind of uneasiness or uncertainty is there. So to handle that, we'll be using some membership functions to handle these uncertainties, the variations which are happening. So that is called fuzzy sets. So that is called fuzzification, the first part of our system. So in any fuzzy logic model, you will be able to see some graphs like this. Okay, even after these discussions, if you want to use this fuzzy logic tool in MATLAB, or if you want to use it, you will be coming across these kind of graphs. So what is this graph is? This graph is the one which handles the uncertainty in the data. So you could see some triangular blocks like this. It means those variations which are happening is grouped in a set. So you could see negative low, positive high. This is one set. This is one block. Likewise, this is for maximum speed. You could see maximum velocity and angle. So there are three variables which I have taken. I have used these fuzzy sets for bringing clarity. Okay, because these are all varying. That variation I am trying to use. I am trying to use this triangular function to map it, and I am bracketing that elements, and I can connect it to the outputs. Okay, so for that purpose, I am using these membership functions. So using these membership functions, one can handle the uncertainty. Okay, that's how this works. And you could see here, the fuzzy sets were formulated in 1965 by Zeta. He is the professor in Columbia University. He started developing these kind of formulations. Until recently, the developments are happening. You could see even 2018, fuzzy soft matrix. The developments are still happening in these kind of handling uncertainties. So still we have opportunities to develop handling uncertainties in the data. Okay, so just I want to throw what is the research which is happening here. So that's what it is. The first stage is formulating fuzzy sets. The reason is handling uncertainties. Okay, second part. Okay, we have formulated sets. How we can apply intelligence. So that's a very simplest way as of what we do here. So I would like to show how this works here. So you could see input side and output side. You are discretizing with the fuzzy sets. You will be able to connect for the corresponding set to the corresponding set by means of your own logic. So I can take this element alone. I am connecting here based on some logic. I am connecting it. Okay, so the logic is formulated by this pyramid. You could see the pyramid here: data, information, intelligence, and decision. This is called decision pyramid. How we take decision is based on the input data. We analyze that, we convert that into an information, and then we apply intelligence, and then we take decisions. Okay, so again, I would like to show a simple example here. What is that rule formation and intelligence? See, again, this example is, see, many of us might have gone for restaurants. So how we will give tips for the server? So it depends on various conditions like food quality, ambience, and service time. So all these things gives an idea, and we'll be giving tips for the server accordingly. Whenever the changes are happening, accordingly we'll give tips. So what it means here is, if service is poor, then tip is cheap. If service is good, tip is average. Service is excellent, tip is generous. So this is connecting only one variable to the one input variable to one output variable. So if I have multiple input variable, multiple output variable, still I'll be able to use it. Use AND operation and OR operation. Logically, I can connect these variables by means of these sets which we have formulated, and I'll be able to connect. Okay, this is how the human reasoning works. We don't have any equation for giving tips. We don't have any x is equal to x square, y is equal to x square. We don't have any equation. Just we know how much we need to give. Approximately, we can give 10 rupees, 15 rupees, depending upon the conditions. That's what fuzzy logic is. So the logic, it means the central part where the changes which are happening, you formulate fuzzy sets, fuzzy rules here. Based on the rules, you will be able to connect to the outputs by means of this if-then rule. Okay, I hope you will be able to get an idea how we can connect it. One more quick example I would like to show. So the rule, whatever we make, has a very, very physical meaning here. The if-then rule connects the cause to the effect. Whatever it causes, you are able to connect. That's the effect of the system. So one is input and other one is output. So you are able to simply manage this by means of a simple rule. Okay, so there are some mathematics inside. We cannot simply say if x is a, then y is b. What is that? You have a very, very core mathematical things happening inside this. If x is a, then y is b. One could say this is one set and this is another set. That's what I talked about, mapping of one input domain to the output domain. So you may not know what is happening when I change the voltage what is the speed at which it is running. One cannot understand that. But if you know some basics, if I give small voltage, small change in speed, so you can formulate the rule here. Okay, so that you will be able to understand what is happening in the engineering systems. So these rules are called implication rules. So it implies what is the condition and what will be the outcome. Okay, this is called human reasoning. Okay, so again, one simple example here is doctor's advice. So when this is the context today, under COVID-19 conditions, many of us might have gone for hospitals, like how doctor diagnoses the fever, whether this is a typhoid, malaria, or general fever, or COVID-19. There are variations in the output depending upon the conditions which the symptoms which is shown here. When the temperature is very high, when the body pain is very low, cold is very low, then it will be an ordinary fever. When everything is changing, it can be COVID-19. So the output is also changing, input is also changing, but doctor is able to diagnose. He don't have any equation to connect. He know if this the condition, then this is the output. Okay, so fuzzy logic system is a doctor's advice. Wherever the input is there, he will be able to manipulate how the output will be. Okay, how you give tips. So that's a central part of fuzzy logic system. Okay, I think there are some mathematics. I may not take it. I think as a colleagues, I think you can go through it. We may not have times also. So the thing what we have done here is we have simply mapped one domain to the other domain by means of this rule. So the rule gives you a Cartesian product. So one set is there in x-axis. You could see here. This is x input variable, and this is output variable by a membership function where it is varying by this function, and I am able to map it. Okay, this is a relation you get by this if-then rule. Okay, so by means of this rule, what we are doing is a cross product, union, negation, as well as you are again doing a cross product in the y axis. So that's the overall aspect of logical operation which happens in a if-then rule. Okay, so using this, you will be able to take decisions. I hope right now you know what is the first part, what is second part, and right now we have third part. Okay, now we formulated rules. We cannot stop it here. The rules, all the rules whichever we formulated, has to be aggregated. Okay, we need to aggregate all the rules, and we need to take a conclusion out of it. We may have multiple rules, so you need to consolidate all the rules, and we need to bring out a aggregated output. That's called defuzzification. Okay, so I think again I'm bringing back this tips example. So what it means here is there are two inputs, service and food. So if service is poor or food is rancid, then tip is cheap. If service is good, tip is average. So you have three rules here, connecting this input and two inputs and one output. All these rules will be summed up. This is a summing junction, and summing up all these things, you will be able to take an output. So fuzzy logic does that. Fuzzy logic connects all these things, and it sums up, and then it gives you, okay, this can be the reason for it. Okay, so here through this, I think one can bring inferences also. Through this fuzzy logic system, one can bring inferences. What is that here is 90% humans are right-handed. John is a human. So what is the inference we get from this? Could anyone answer this? What is the inference you get from these two statements? What I'm trying to address is, there are two statements available with you. 90% humans are right-handed. John is a human. Then what is the inference you will be able to get from these two?
Participants, you can use the chat box or you can unmute and speak, no problem.
See, what I'm trying to address is 90% humans are right-handed. John is a human. It means John will be a right-handed person. Okay, you are able to apply a knowledge which you gain from here, and then you are able to bring out a new inference. So fuzzy logic system will do that. So once you formulate the rules there, so once I give an input, it will interpret with the particular rule and it will say, okay, this is the condition. That's what the fuzzy logic system does. Okay, so it can do inferencing also. It does some ways of doing this. We will be doing composition operation on these fuzzy sets. It gives us a final output. Okay, so I think I'll be stopping here for first part of our discussions. So fuzzy logic system is about relations, implications, and composition. Okay, we will be able to bring inferences based on the knowledge we gain from the imposition of rules, whatever we have formulated. So these are all the mathematics behind this. So by doing this, you will be able to bring a connection between input and output. That's what we need in an engineering system. So you can use this logic in the electric vehicle to manage your electric motor. Okay, so I think I'll stop here. So I'll stop here. So our discussion is about fuzzy logic and neural network. So I'm completing the basics behind fuzzy logic here. Any questions at this point on this architecture and how the system is working? I think I have conveyed something to you right now. Any questions on this part? Because we may switch to neural network after these discussions. Fuzzy logic confuses. I think I hope you should be able to take it forward. So any questions? Maybe I would like to hear it from you at end of the session. So I hope Professor Adarsh, what is the timelines at which we need to complete?
Sir, 1 o'clock or 10 minutes scope would be there.
Sure, yes. Sure. I think another 30 minutes for neural networks. So we have to 12:45. I think I started at 11:30. Yes. We have up to 1 o'clock time. So we have
1:15 also we can finish. Sir,
yeah,
including
it's fine. So so from these discussions, even though I have rushed up a bit, I think we have a shorter timelines. I have we discussed few things here. So this is called a fuzzy logic system, which helps us for mapping input and output. Okay. So one quick example, we can also use MATLAB toolbox. As I told you, we have 3 parts here in our presentations. So third part is about MATLAB demonstration. I may show it later. I think third part I'll discuss how we can control a motor speed. See, for example, here, this is a reference speed which you want, but at the system, because of disturbances and uncertainties, the speed varies. So you could see this line, the speed, there is a change in speed. So there is an error. So what is the error and what is the change in error with respect to the time? So fuzzy logic can be used for taking these two as an input, and how much change you need to give to the system to maintain the reference speed. See, finally, this error has to be 0, because you need to maintain certain level for your system. So speed controller is one of the important aspect wherever the load. See, for example, in an electric vehicle can handle certain load. So for 4 persons are entering in the electric vehicle, so the load increases. Because of that, your speed should not decrease. Your performance decreases because of that. But you need to automatically change the speed according to the load which is experienced by the motor. So this system will work for you. So automatically it will detect the changes which are happening in the input. You can formulate rules here. If error is low and change in error is low, then you could give a small change in output. Okay, you can formulate the rule like that. So likewise, you can formulate multiple rules for multiple conditions, multiple change in conditions, and the system can be managed. See, finally, the system has to be managed by an engineer, or engineering system has to be managed for a proper requirements. So that can be done by these kind of tools. Okay, so I'll stop and we'll switch to neural networks, because fuzzy logic is done. Later, I'll show a small demonstration on this. I think we can move on to neural networks. Okay, So let me figure out how we can apply this. Neural network is also a tool. I think if we recall, I think I should have put that slide here. Okay, I'm sorry here. So I'm just copying and pasting here to start the neural network part, to give a background behind this, as we are switching from one part to other part. Okay. See, so our focus was about soft computing tools. We focused on approximate reasoning. Okay, reasoning, it means if then rule. Even though it may not be a precise mapping, still under uncertain conditions, you are able to map it through fuzzy logic. Okay, that's one aspect of soft computing. And you could see on the other side spectrum, you have functional approximation. These two spectrums are not same. It's entirely a new aspect of mathematics, where it uses functional approximation as a base, where you will be able to map again input and output. The neural network and fuzzy logic does the same. Structurally and mathematically, the difference is its own principle wise. So in the principle wise, here you use set theory and if then rules for mapping. But in the case of neural networks, you will be using a kind of flexible functional approximation mechanism. What is that functional approximation? Against the mathematics involved in this, I would like to show this. And under this spectrum, you have neural network and evolutionary algorithms. Okay, and I think this is out of our scope here, evolutionary algorithms, but neural network is coming under functional approximation. Okay, so what is that neural network? It means, again, I would like to recall the definitions. Like, it's a brain inspired computing tool for recognizing the underlying relation or pattern or function in the data sets. So the major problem in engineering system is some inputs are changing, some outputs are changing. How it is changing? What is the relation between these two? So you don't have any idea. Neural network has some other ways to do that. Okay, again, this uses brain inspired computing. Okay, so to give an emphasis behind the basics of it, we copy many things from biology. We copy and we develop systems. Some of the examples I would like to go through. We copy many things here. See, the copying, it means the birds, we copy that flying nature and we build aeroplanes. This is a copying version of a biologically inspired bird. Okay. Similarly, a robotic manipulator, again, it is a kind of our own hand. You see some degrees of freedom we have. In the similar way, your robot manipulator can also sweep certain areas. It cannot go beyond some reach. Similar to our own hand, we may have certain degrees of freedom. In the similar way, robot is a inspiration of our own hand. Okay, again, it's a biologically inspired system. We can say many things like this, like barcode in the maybe in the products, they'll be scanning it and they'll be able to connect. It's a kind of thumb impression. So everyone has a biometric index for our own signatures. Okay, it's a kind of barcode. Okay, likewise, many things are inspired from biology. Again, the inspiration is the neural network is inspired by the network architectures of our own brain. So brain has different layers. We know that if we refresh biology, we know different layers are available. We know there are some 6 layers I have shown here. So every layer has its own role. It does some kind of computing and it gives output to the next set of layers for taking decisions. Brain works in that way. Okay, it takes input from different senses, whatever we have, and we actuate ourselves. So the output is input-output mechanism is done by this kind of arrangement. So why can't we take certain inspiration from here? So again, you could see a complex neuron with different architectures like this. You could see a kind of nucleus, synapse, and there is a tail you could see, and there is a output. Okay, so mathematicians and scientists have taken this as an inspiration, inspired by this biology. They have made a kind of computing tool. And one of the unique aspect of these neurons is neurons activate. neurons will activate. One neuron will activate next set of neurons, and the next set will activate the next set. Like you have a very parallel mechanism in our brain throughout our body. So those kind of computations will help us for parallel computing. So each node, whatever the neuron gives, is a computation where you will be able to take some kind of computation and you will be able to transfer. So neurons will activate. Okay, so this is a core aspect of a neuron. You could see here an activation happens at the center part, a nucleus, and one of the unique aspect of this neuron is neuron only will fire only if the total signal received at the cell body exceeds certain level. That's a basic of neuron. We will be using that because it's not that it'll only hold it. Once certain threshold reaches, then only it will transfer it to the next set of neurons. Okay, using this inspiration, one can develop a neural network model. Okay, I would like to have a small analogy here. You could see from these two graphs, inputs, you could see three inputs are here, P1, P2, P3, can be voltage, current, or something like that. And then there is a blue mark with some weights. What is the use of that? And with the orange color, there is a summing junction, and there is a function f, and there is an output. Okay, what it does here is it transforms this. It is a transformation of input to the output. So you could see P1, P2, P3. You could see a single output A. What it does here is all these things are summed up at this point. Okay, all these things are summed up at this point because neuron does that. Neuron collects everything and then it activates an output. So that's given by an activation function. Before that, you could see a blue mark which is a weighted, which is a weight. What is the need for that? Okay, every input, whatever you get here, you need to normalize that. See, for example, voltage and current, I cannot simply sum it up. Voltage is one thing and current is another quantity. I want to take decision making for an output. So I cannot simply add two elements which are differing, two different variables. So I have to normalize that. Something will be weighted. So you need to weight it by means of certain weights. Okay, it can be multiple inputs also. There will be n number of inputs. So it can be expanded. It can be scaled up. Okay, and then all will be summed up here with the weightage values, whichever you give here for normalizing all these values. So it will become a kind of undimensional or unidimensional number, and then you will activate to get an output. Okay, so this structure somehow it helps us for mapping input and output. That's what we need because we gave a background earlier. We don't know what is happening, the change which happens input side and output side. We need to have a proper a kind of mathematical model, which if we are not able to get, we may use these kind of structures to map these input values to the output values. Okay, so you could see downside there is an equation A, which is a function of P1 W1 plus P2 W2 P3 W3 plus B. There is a bias. Sometime we may also give bias for mapping these values. We need to be biased at sometimes also. We may also eliminate bias. We can make it 0. Final objective is to map the values. What is the input and what is the output? So to do that, these blue markings like weights and bias can be scaled up. Like we can vary that. So when you vary this W1, W2 and B, you should be able to get whatever output you want. So any engineering system, you can engineer that, okay, whatever condition which is changing, I need that. So you can use this mechanism. You fix the weights. This is the value you want. So accordingly, this value will be multiplied with this channel will be multiplied with this, and you will be summed up here. Whatever happens here, the change which happens, it will suppress. So it will combine all these things and it will suppress, and then it will give you the corresponding output which you need. Okay, that's what neural network does. So one more unique aspect of this one is you can train these networks. You can train this. The neural network can learn from the mistakes, and it can recall also. It has some memory also. So as of our brain, whatever we do, we make mistakes and we are able to correct. We are able to change ourselves. So the similar nature can be given to this neural network. Correction can be done by means of changing the weights and bias so that you can learn from the mistakes which happens in the output side, and you can store it whenever you want to recall it. So all these things are possible by means of this excellent tool here. So you can learn many things. So this is called supervised learning. You could see a bird here which follows. So neural network is a supervised learning method. You supervise that, okay, this is what you want. So accordingly, the system will work for you. Okay. So the unique aspect here is parallel computing. So you have parallel structures here. Learning and corrections can be done by means of changing weights. Recall and memory, it means you can store it. So whenever you want, you take it, the corresponding output. So all these things are possible, which inspires our brain. Okay. So and to address a few things about the mathematics, you have discrete mathematics, analytic geometry, linear algebra, statistics, vector differential calculus, optimization. All these things are embedded in the neural network. I haven't addressed that. Later you could know we are using each of these things wherever we studied in mathematics, we are applying here in neural networks. Okay. Discrete mathematics in a sense that input, you have some column of values which is a matrix. Okay. And what is that dot product? It means your weight values and the input is a dot product. You align these two values to get the corresponding output. Okay. Again, you use some vector algebra here to map the input side to the output side, and you need to extract certain features from the input. Okay. There you need to use some statistics and probability. And for corrections, error correction can be done by gradients. We need to differentiate the output. So there we will be using gradient descent method to differentiate the output to develop a scientific platform for managing the errors in the neural network. Neural network cannot be a precise mapping between input output. Sometimes it may lead to error also because of random weight values which we fix. So the error has to be minimized. That error minimization can be done by this gradient values or gradient descent method, so that you can formulate your own mechanisms. So these are all the mathematics behind that. I think we may not take more here. 12:30 right now. So another 15 minutes, I would like to conclude all these discussions with MATLAB demonstrations. So mathematical model of neuron, I hope you will be able to capture this better. So input and weights, you need to have dot product, or P1 and W1 is a dot product, which is a vector, weight vector and input vector. You will be applying from linear algebra perspective. Apply dot product, you will be getting an output to normalize these values, and then sum it up, give an activation. So what is this activation? What is that function does? So you have certain set of activation function. We call this as transfer functions, which will transfer entire values which are summed up at one point. It will transfer to the next stage from one platform to the next platform. So one unique aspect of this mechanism is bias and weight can be modified. It's user defined. You modify according to certain conditions so that you can scale this network to meet the corresponding output. Okay. So activation functions can be of any kind, like linear function can be a transfer function. There can be log sigmoid functions. For addressing non-linearity in your system, we need to go for non-linear activation functions. So we'll be using that to get an output. Hard limit functions can be used for classification applications. Okay. So inside the neuron, what happens is only two functions are happening, two calculations are happening. One is dot product or adder function, and other thing is activation function to get a added value and transferring it. These two happens in the summing junction. Okay, that's a neuron. So here you could see some of the matrix like input, output, okay, dot product. So these are all the basics behind this network. And activation functions you can use depending upon applications. One can select different activation functions to get an output. Okay, and this is a correction mechanism. Okay, this is a correction mechanism inside the neural network. So you could see here, one side you are feeding input, neural network has connections with the weights and bias to get you the output. This output may not be correct with your targets, which you want to tell that this is how it has to be. So you compare these two. If some error is there, you adjust the weights and bias. So until the output reaches your target, you can iterate this. So this iteration follows gradient descent method. You can modify the weights accordingly automatically until you get minimum error here. Okay, target and output may not match. So the error will be minimized by this arrangement. This is called functional approximation. So you approximate any kind of function by means of this loop, correction loop. We are able to learn and we are able to correct. So this arrangement works in the neural networks. Okay, what's this? So I'm stopping here to give some proper analogy on neural network. We have discussed these entire arrangements in some way. I would like to give an analogy of this neural network. Again, we will go to restaurant. This is a lunchtime right now. So when you go to restaurant, you take different foods here, and you will be giving. We need to give total amount to the cashier. Okay, how we give that? So again, neural network works there. I would like to connect what is happening here. So one quick example here is you take certain fish, chips and juice. So 3 items you are taking: fish, chips and juice. So there are 3 inputs. Okay, and cashier says that the total value is 500 rupees. The thing whichever you have taken, it can be any number of items. You may take 4 items, 5 items also. I have taken 3 items. So 500 rupees, he is telling 500 rupees for this. So you will be wondering how much price, how much is the weightage for fish, how much weightage has to be given for chips, how much weightage has to be given for juice. So everyone will agree that we have to give more weightage for fish, because for the total value of 500, the input whichever you give will be weighted more by the fish because of its own content, its own quality and quantity which you take. So that's what weight it means. So I hope from this example you will be able to connect what do you mean by weight. So weight, it means it's a kind of connection which we give deliberately, where the information which you process is properly connected by that, because it is meeting your requirements depending upon the conditions. So sometimes we may use 0 weights also, because it may not be giving enough effect on your output. So at that time your weight has to be modified. Okay, so the cashier's brain and the neural network works in tandem. So how much amount he looks for, it depends on the weights for different items. Okay, see, if sometime I want a proper weight to be connected, for example 500 rupees I need. So what is the weightage I need to give here? So this weight you need to start with randomly to match with your output. So I am giving 100, 20, 150 here. If I multiply these two, after summing up, I need to get a value 500. Sometime when I start with some number like 110, I may not be meeting 500. So I can vary the weight values until I reach the output. Okay, I hope you got it. So I will multiply 1 into 100. I think let us multiply this. 2 into 150, 300. Again 5 into 20, 100. Again 100. So it exactly matches. When I weight these values by these weights, it exactly matches with 500. It's deliberately I have put it like this. If I modify this, for example here, 2 into 100, one can start with 100 also. Total value is 500. So you don't know what is happening at the output side. So you start with some random value. Now you could see 30, 250, 280. So this is about 480. Okay, total is 480. So is it right? Yeah, I think 480. So 20 is loss. 20 is an error. So I need to modify that. So that error can be modified by changing the weights. So I can change it to 110. Sometime it may go beyond 500 also. Sometime it may go below also. So accordingly you iterate this and then you come to the conclusions. Okay. So that's what neural network does. Okay, so this is called learn from mistakes or back propagation. So you can also back propagate the values of the weight values from the backside. You have parallel elements here. So whenever the error happens, so you find the loss here. Okay, the change which happens, it is not matching. So you are able to correct it from the correct the weights in the back propagation, and again you feed forward. So until your mapping is done properly with minimum error, you need to iterate this. So this process is called learning process. Okay, so again, for helping you to simplify this understanding, many of us might have seen gears. Okay, gears. So when I just rotate one gear, connected gears will rotate the other part of connected gears. Like you see the chain of gears here. So if I change here, it changes in the output side. That's what neural network does. So change input, your value output changes. Okay, that differences whichever you want, you configure your own system. Okay, that's what it is. So there are different computational models available. So I would like to stop in another 10 minutes time. Then we will switch to MATLAB demonstration for 10 minutes and then we'll close. So that's our plan. So any questions on this part of neural networks?
Hello, sir.
Yes, please. Yes, sir.
We insert some kind of approximations in these computations.
Yes.
At circuit level.
Yes.
Will it affect the overall learning performance? And can you comment on this?
Sir, definitely this will have an impact on the learning performance, because we are doing only approximation. We are not simply precisely mapping this. There will be an error because we don't know what is the underlying function between the input side and output side. It can be a sine function or exponential function, or some function will be there for our engineering system. So as we don't know the function of mapping this input to the output, we just use these neural networks to map these values. We play with this weight values and bias and activation functions. We will be able to make it to some level of error. Like it may be of 2 into 10 power minus 3 kind of error, or maybe some error will be there always for mapping it. So it will have its own impact in its learning process. All the mapping cannot be done by neural network. We cannot simply say that. There are applications where you cannot use it. So it depends on the complexities of your problem. Like the system level, the dynamics will be there. Sometime it will be understood by this, or maybe you need to increase the number of connections and the weight values. So more number of parallel computations has to happen. Your network complexity also will increase. But neural network has been already proved that it can approximate any function. Because of that only we are using it in any engineering applications. For control applications we are using it, but we need to be very careful how much error is holding on into the system. Always there is an error.
Okay, sir.
Right. Okay. So there are certain computational models. I think it's not of interest for us right now. Just for sake, I'm just showing you, because perceptron, feed for, you could see the architectures which are increasing in complexities. You could see the network, parallel networks which are increasing. There are feedback loops are coming in, long short-term memory networks. Okay, convolutional neural networks are available right now. Okay, you could see many kind of architectures, but the basic aspect is this one, the caseous brain. So how the weights are changing and how you are mapping it, that's it. But architectures will differ accordingly, the computations will change. Okay, so this is different neural network architectures. Mainly we will look at a multi-layer neural network with different layer connections. What it does here is you have input layer and output layer, where you map the input values and the output values. So here you could see 3 neurons, so 3 inputs, a single output. Or you can also configure 2 output, 3 output, 4 output, more number of outputs also possible. Okay, one cannot have more number of outputs also. The matrix will become degenerate. It's all about mathematics. Sometimes it becomes singular also. So you need to configure your own system very properly. 3 input, 3 output, you will be able to map it in somehow with the parallel structures. You will be able to map it. You cannot extend it to certain levels. Depending upon the problem, you need to configure very carefully. You will be able to map it. So but for an engineering system, normally we will talk about 3 input 4 output kind of situations. So the system will work for you. In a PC, you can start coding this one, and you will be able to map it. Okay. So hidden layer, what is that hidden layer? It means it is hiding between the input layer and output layer. It does some local computations before it gives you the output. So in the output side only, you will be mapping the input values and the output values. Hidden layers helps us for local computations. Okay, I can have 3 hidden layers, 4 hidden layers, 5 hidden layers. Depending upon complex problems, connections are needed for computing. So you can increase complexity, will also increase, computational complexity will increase. So we need to optimize this structure also. Sometimes we need to limit these connections also. So just for the sake of understanding, we're highlighting this. So what it does in every layer is it's a transformation of input to the output. So one part of input will be weighted, and it will be given to a set of neurons which will activate, and it will give you the output. So this is called a transformation of transformation. It transforms one input to the next input by means of this activation functions, weights, bias. It transforms some number. Again, the transform number will be given to some other set of neuron. It transforms. Again, another set transforms. So the reason for doing this one is we don't know what is the input number you give, what is the output number you want. There needs to be a transformation. That transformation can be done by a mathematical function which we may not know. Sometime an exponential function with sine function, elliptical function can help us to get it. If we don't know the dynamics analytically, then these structures, flexible mechanisms by means of changing weights, you will be able to transform the entire numbers from one number to other number. That's it. That's what this neural network does. Okay. So as I told you, it's a transformation of numbers. You could see the numbers coming in, and some numbers are transferred. So you could see 1 and 1 is feeded, and you are getting an output 0.75. If you need that output, you fix the weight values accordingly. If it doesn't give 0.75, for example, cashier want 500 to be an output, so it is not meeting, then you change the values. So that's how you need to supervise this network to get a corresponding output. Okay. So I think I will stop here. I think time, we have some timelines. So with this, what neural network does is it's only a transformation of one set to other set, and it maps input values to the output values, and it does functional approximation. What is the function of y is equal to f of x? What is that function? Nobody knows. So x1, x2, x3, multiple inputs, multiple outputs. So one cannot properly connect it. But neural network with these architectures can help irrespective of random variations. You will be able to get the output. Okay. So I think part 1 is done. Part 2, the basics behind fuzzy logic and neural network is done. I think we have part 3. Do we have timelines? I think any questions at this part before we switch to MATLAB? So no questions. Okay, this is the end of our session. So MATLAB part 3, I think 12:45 exactly, 10 minutes time. I would like to show a small demonstration in MATLAB how you can apply fuzzy logic and neural network. So I think you can recall what we have discussed in fuzzy logic, like rule formations and set theory. So if you keep these two together, like fuzzy logic and neural network, keep together, both does the same, like input output mapping. Nothing more than that. Computation only. Numbers are transformed and you are getting some numbers. So machines are about numbers only. So this fuzzy logic doesn't in some way, like you have a if-then rule. By means of human reasoning, you are doing this. But in neural networks, you do it in some other way by means of weights and bias and scaling it. and then optimizing by means of iterations, by means of back propagations, and you are able to map it. So these two, it needs some kind of coding for developing engineering systems. So coding can be done in softwares, like many of us use MATLAB software, Python we are using. So we have inbuilt functions for developing these tools. So I would like to show a small demonstration how one can use this as the final part of our discussions. I think I can see, one can see the MATLAB interface here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is.
Okay. See this. I think so colleagues and faculties may be using it in the academic purposes, for research purposes. So MATLAB is a versatile software. You could see there are options like functions and plotting functions. Applications are there. So in this apps, you have fuzzy logic app is also there. So whatever we have studied, MATLAB has given an excellent platform to immediately get through and solve problems. So I would like to show a small demo here. So I hope many of you know about MATLAB. So get into MATLAB. In the command window, we need to type fuzzy. So if you type fuzzy, you will be able to get a small graphical user interface. So you will be getting a interface like this. So this you could see here. One is input and output. So that's a thing which we do from our discussion itself. What is input and what is output? So this is able to be this framework. You'll be able to connect input and output. So how many inputs and how many outputs? So we need to take a problem and we need to solve. So simply, I would like to take two input variables. So I would like to take add variable. Okay, two input variables, and it can be two output variable also. So add variable output. So now you have configured two input, two output system, or maybe three input. Let's see. Let's make it three input and two output system. Okay, what is that three input and three output? So we can take any engineering system. As I am from mechanical engineering, like it can be speed, feed, depth of cut for a machine tool. Three inputs. Output can be surface finish and material removal rate. So when I change these values, the material removal rate and surface finish is going to change. Or for an electrical system, it can be voltage, current, pulse width modulation, which you give it to a motor. Motor is going to give corresponding speed and torque, or many other values. Okay, when load also will change. So likewise, you decide which input you want and which output you want. You can configure that. So quickly, I would like to see this input to be speed. So I would like to take speed as my input. Okay. So okay, what is the speed and what is that I am going to do here? So as I told you, speed has some kind of variations which are happening inside this system. So you need to make a you need to formulate fuzzy sets, because the reason for doing this one is we are supposed to handle the uncertainties in the data. So fuzzy sets can be like, as I told you, you have a triangular function, trapezoid functions. So you could see here trapezoid function, or it can be a Gaussian function. The reason for doing these functions are, this gives a flexibility to address the changes in the speed. Okay, so speed, you could see x-axis 0 to 1, it is there. So I can vary to 0 to 1000. So 1000 RPM. So if I put in the range 1000, you'll be able to see 0 to 1000. So what is this membership function does here is, it maps the entire values between these ranges. So I am able to group it. Earlier it was mix of different things. So I am able to group it properly. That's what classical set does. So we are doing it in different way here. We use a membership function to understand the variations. So MF1 is my low speed. So I'm taking this my one variation which is happening, and this can be medium variation, and this is my low, medium, high. So the speed varies in different ways. So I am going to understand that by means of this set. So I am able to fuzzify that. So fuzzification, it means you formulate sets. So you have done that. Okay, fuzzy logic has 3 parts. Fuzzification, we have done this for a particular variable. Then you can use rule formation to connect with your output. Okay, so only we are fuzzifying input alone. So I'm taking speed. So this input can be depth of cut. Okay, again depth of cut can be, I'm sorry, I think this variable, okay, this variable has to be configured in the first stage itself. So I'm keeping that as depth of cut. And the third variable here is speed, feed. So feed I am giving for some system. So for a machine tool, so 3 things are changing, and output can be surface finish. Okay, and another output can be material removal rate. So this can be for any system, any variable. Just I'm material removal rate. Okay, so you can formulate any variable of interest for you. Only thing is what is the variable you want, you configure here. So I am taking speed 1000 rpm, depth of cut certain mm. Okay, so I'm going to keep this as again some range you can give, and you can configure like some name you can give. So again I'm giving low. So you can give different names also, because it can also you need to give different names for different variables, the sets, so that you can easily map it. So again you any name you can give. Low, again I'm giving maybe medium. Okay, high. Okay, again I'm giving the same thing for simplicity. Feed can be coarse. It means some fine values. Okay, fine feed. Okay, to change the this one, then it's high. Okay, so from these examples, from this, what I'm trying to say is you are bracketing these elements. Surface finish, it varies from 0 to 5 microns. So you give maybe 10 microns in a CNC machine tool. So surface finish is rough. So you give rough. Good surface finish. Excellent surface finish. So this is for simplicity we are giving. Material removal rate, again some number, maybe 10 millimeter cube per second, something like that. And again I can give for simplicity like low, medium, high. Okay, so now all is set right now. So you have configured input and output, and you have given all the values. Now you are able to relate this by means of some rules. So you go to edit, you can have rules here. So all these things right now we have a simple platform. So you could see here again a menu comes out. So if speed is low and depth of cut is low and the feed is coarse, then surface finish will be what? See, this has to be logically connected. We cannot simply play with this. The rule is the rule where you properly connect it, which is called artificial intelligence or intelligence which you embed in the system. So depending upon the connection, it will work for you. If the rule goes wrong, if you're not giving intuitively, then it goes wrong. Because for a condition which is made for it, for the given material conditions, roughness may be excellent for the given conditions. So you need to be very careful in putting that. So for the sake of doing this, we are just addressing this. So I'm keeping some variable here. Okay. Okay, add variable. So add rule. So you can add the rule here. First rule. Then speed changes to medium. depth of cut changes to medium, feed is changed to fine. Now, if the condition changes, again the output also will change. We know that. So what is expected out of it? If you know that, you give it can be medium, add rule. Likewise, you can change these values. Okay, it can be good and it can be high, add rule. So likewise, one can play with this. Again, it's not playing. One can manipulate this to engineer the system. Okay, so I can add many rules here. Depending upon all connections, you need to formulate all rules. So once the rule is set, it means all connections, as I told you, input side is discretized with some set, output side is discretized with some set. You are able to map it with this rule. So no way it will move out of this. So fuzzy logic system is able to handle all variations which is happening here. So that's what fuzzy logic does. Okay, so you could see a graph here. You could see the surface. There is a plot. It may, I think if someone have used fuzzy logic, I think one can see the surface plot. See the surface plot between speed and depth of cut. You could see the changes. See, we have figured out only 4 rules. For 4 rules, this is the output. For feed. Okay, for depth of cut. So if you formulate all the rules, you will be able to get a nice surface here. The surface will tell how much the intersection happens between these 2 variables, and it gives the output. So you are able to map all the values. Okay, you can also see the rules here. Again, it shows a ruler. So you could see, if I'm setting speed to be 228, depth of cut is 0.82, feed is 0.86. What will be my material removal rate? You can easily get the values. Okay, you can change it here, and accordingly you will be able to change the output. Okay, any questions? Like this is a small demonstration. It's not complete. We have very small timelines. So I'm stopping here for fuzzy logic demonstration. Any questions on this?
Participants, please, if you have any questions on the use of MATLAB.
Okay, so Adarsh sir, any time is there for neural network also, or can we go complete this session?
We will finish it off, sir, in another 10 minutes.
Okay, maybe 5 minutes. Another 5 minutes
Sure.
I'll take.
Sure,
So
sure.
neural network, like fuzzy logic, is about fuzzy, and you will be getting a menu like this. I think we got a small demonstration. Let me show you small demonstration on neural network. So again, for neural network also we have a toolbox. So you have to type NN tool. Okay, NN tool in the command window. So if you type it, it will show you a small menu. Again, a graphical user interface will come. So you could see it comes out here. This is called the neural network manager. So here you can feed input data, target data. See, what is the difference between target and output? It means network will give output. You will be supplying the target, because we are telling the network to follow. This is called supervised learning. So you tell what you want. So you tell the network to follow the target. Network will give output. So difference between these two will be given as an error. So this error has to be a minimum 1. Until then, you can train the network. Training, it means you change the weights. Until the error is minimum, you change the weights through back propagation. If error is becoming minimum as per the threshold limit which you have fixed, network will stop learning this. Then you can use the structure for approximations or for mapping it. Okay, so that's how it works. What is the data? You will feed it for input target here. So I think we have some example. See, I have one small program to run it. I think I can. to generate this input and target, I have made one code here. Okay, X and Y. And this is for a robotic arm. Okay. See, for a robotic arm, normally what we will give is the motor actuation will be given and robot end effector will go to the particular position. So what angle you give for the link and what position it goes, there is a connection. So here you can map the values of what angle you give and what position it goes. So theta 1 and theta 2 is your input. XY can be your output. Okay, so otherwise XY can be your input. What angle you need to turn can be your output. So here I think we have made so you could see here input values. See, this is an array of input values. We are going to have two inputs. Okay, X and Y. For this X and Y, what angle I need to turn the robot manipulator, which I can get it from the angle which I have given it in the target. So this is my target. So now I need to map the input and target. So this number has to be mapped with this number, 2 input and 2 output. So how we can do that? So what we could do is, now with this input and target is in the workspace, I can call this in the MATLAB. Sorry, I think we need to go to this NN tool, import. So import from workspace. In workspace you have input, import. So you have imported the input data. Okay. Similarly, you need to import the target also for training this. So target data import. Target is also imported. So now you have input and target. You need to give it to a network. So network can be configured by a create network menu. So here you have a network. So this is our FDP. So FDP net, FDP neural network. So this is called feed forward back propagation neural network. You have many neural networks, Hopefield, recurrent. Okay, many architectures are available. Here we are using back propagation neural network. So input I am selecting, target I am selecting. These are all training functions, transfer functions, number of layers. Okay, sigmoid functions, transfer function, you know that. Okay, so I am configuring like this. So you could see the view the neural network also here. I think it comes out. Okay, it takes time to load. So you can also view the network. Now I am creating this. So I am creating. Okay, it has come now. I have created FTP neural network. 2 input, 2 output, hidden layer, output layer. So these numbers you can reconfigure on your own. Depending upon your complexity, you can configure. So so you could see number of neurons 10. So you can configure to 8 or 6 or 7. Depending upon that, you can use it. Number of layers 2. So if you change it to 3, it will become 3. Okay, I think I'll change 3. Here I'll change it to 8. View. You see here it has changed. 8 hidden layers. I'm sorry, 2 hidden layers, but 8 neurons. And output layer. Output layer contains 2 outputs, 2 inputs and 2 outputs. So now we got it. Now you can train this. So you have created this. Okay, you have created this. Okay, I think FDP NN and network 1. I think the second thing is for second configuration. So network 1. So you can open this and you can go to train. Okay, train. For training this, you call the input values and target values, and then downside you could see train network. So once you click train network, you will be getting a menu and it will start training the process. We talked about back propagation and error correction. So all these things will happen. So I think it will take 1 minute. I think this is coming up right now. You could see here. These are all iterations. So you see here, this is the network. This is the epochs, performances, gradients, validation stop. So all these things happen right now. So you can see the plots for this network. What is the performance for this network for mapping these input values to the output values? Again, it will show some graphs here. So you see the. So earlier it was error was higher. So by changing the weights, the error has come down. And there are 3 colors. One is training, validation, and testing. What is this one is? As we told, we have loaded the input data and target data. Network has taken 3 different sets from this. One set has been used for training purposes. After training, it uses the same. It uses some set of data for validation and testing, because it will become biased otherwise. So we need to have some unseen data also for training purposes. So for all these 3 sets, you could see the error comes down. So it means that it works well for us. So the best performance is 0.002. Minimum, the mapping error between these 2 is only this after 45 epochs. So you can stop it. So all these things are given here. Okay, training state. So all these plots can be taken for scientific applications. You will be able to bring plots here, regression models. So all these things can be taken. So it matches. You see the nicely the target and output matched. So you are getting a higher training output 0.99. So all these sets are mapped properly. Okay. So I think it's lunch time right now. I think let us conclude this. Part 3 is done. So our focus on electric vehicles and neural network and fuzzy logic can help this electric vehicle to become intelligent and to adapt for different conditions. And when we talk about neural network and fuzzy logic, neural network can be assumed as a low-level computational structure to deal with the raw data. Fuzzy logic can be considered as a higher level because we use reasoning operations. Okay, these 2 are useful for electric vehicles, and this artificial intelligence techniques will be helpful to deal uncertainties and failures. And I hope many of us will have opportunities to use this to use it in the electric vehicles and autonomous vehicle technologies. Thank you very much for the given opportunity. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. It was a very nice presentation.
Thank you, sir.
In the last set, if any participant, if you have any query, please you can ask, sir, regarding the neural network programming in MATLAB.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Yes, please. Yes, sir.
Patil, sir, please.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Sir, what is the logic behind the selection of number of hidden neurons and hidden layers, whatever you have selected? Because whether we need to do any pre and post opportunity study, we need to do to selection of those things.
Sir, this question is raised in even in the scientific communities also. Normally, the hidden layer, we may not know what is the number of layers we want. So obviously, we'll be doing it in trial methods. But from the output side, for example, 3 output is there, means you can use three hidden layers. There is a thumb rule is there for hidden layers, like number of outputs has to be matched with the number of hidden layers. Then you will be able to map it. Sometime if you increase the hidden layers, it will also lead to overfitting. Overfitting also is not needed. We need to balance this. Again, this you need to optimize this. So you can use again genetic algorithm inside the neural network to reduce this entire complexities.
Okay. Sir, and one more thing I heard that because I also worked on this neural network in my PhD work.
Yes.
Otherwise, selection the data, we need to select for some percentage for testing, validation, and for this like 75, 25, and 30, it should match for the 100%. Whether it could be, is there any funda for this selection of those things? Because
Yes, definitely there is a funda is there because you have 100% data. We cannot directly use it for all the training purposes. So 70-30 is the case right now in the scientific community they are using. 70% of whole data, for example, 500 samples you have, then 70% of the data only you can use it for training purposes. And for example, 350 samples, then remaining 150 you can split into 75 samples for testing and 75 for validation. Then only you can optimize your structure.
sir, for selection of those ratio, whether is there any rule or any this logic behind that? Because it could be like 70 or 20-15 like that. Whether it could be any, whether it could be 50-25-25 like that. Is there any funda to selection of those things?
Sir, I don't have any idea on that. Right now, I have used 70-30 as a formula, and as many of us are using it. But there are some people using 50-50 also. But again, the challenge is the knowledge which you give 70% training, then that acquires the entire knowledge. So we should have a balance between training as well as testing. So I think, but I don't have direct answer for this. So it depends on the problem. Like maybe 70-30 will be the standard one.
And sir, one more question I'm having regarding this. You have what is the difference between this validation and testing? I hope both remains same meaning for the validation and testing. What could exactly it could be decided?
Yeah, I think testing and validation set is useful for different purposes. It's not same actually. Testing data is only for validating your not validating. It will test whether your accuracy is meeting your requirements, because these two sets are unseen by the data, unseen by your network. So it will check the accuracy. If it doesn't meet, you will be able to modify the parameters like weights and some of the hidden layers or something. You will be changing it. So for validating the entire structure, for final structure, you will use some data set which is called validation. Okay, optimization of accuracy, you will be using it for testing. That's for testing data.
Sir, while selecting, whether it could be, we'll select from the input data or whatever the data which is it's already generated as output.
Yeah, we'll be using whatever we have in our hand. Like from the generated data will be split into 3 parts. So you will be using it.
Okay, thank you so much. And it was a nice presentation.
Thank you all. So we are using it here for last 10 years, and we have guided many research scholars here. So I'm able to consolidate this one. I hope it helps many of us.
Actually, I have done my PhD from VIT Vellore.
Oh, great. Oh, your name, sir?
Dr. Naveen, under Tapan Kumar Bhatta.
Great.
Thank you so much, sir. I worked on this.
Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the participants?
Hello.
Yes,
sir.
please.
Sir, can you tell us other platforms which are used for computationally intensive communications, computationally intensive applications other than MATLAB?
Yeah, we have Python, Scilab is there. We can use it, and there are some machine learning packages available. Like Vika is there. We have it's not only fuzzy logic and neural network. You have varieties of tools available for mapping this input and output. So we have decision tree. We have k-means clustering. There are many tools available. Even in MATLAB also we have tools. Only thing is it has different principles for mapping this. So which suits for the particular data, one has to select it. Python can be a versatile tool.
Which one is faster?
Yeah.
Which tool would be faster for computationally intensive work?
Faster, it means that you need to use a proper computing systems here, like we use NVIDIA processors and computing systems. Yeah, right now, Python has a very light load right now. I think MATLAB, again, you have licenses, you need to purchase it, but Python is an open source. One can download directly. So I think that helps.
Okay, okay, sir.
Yes. I think if all questions are over, we will end the session now. I would like to thank Dr. Dennis Ashok sir for a very informative session, including the hands-on session. This was like an added advantage for the participants. Rather than only going with the theory, you explained how it can be implemented on the practical side as well. So with the minimum time, I understand it's very difficult to cover all the topics, but you managed to do your best, and I really appreciate you for that, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adarsh, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you all for your listening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So Dennis Ashok sir's contact number is in the chat box. If anyone would like to collaborate in the future or for research scholar queries, you can definitely connect to him.
Yes. Yeah, I'm ready to support all the queries. You can mail or you can connect me. I can support all the research activities. Also, we can support you.
Yes, yes. So the main purpose of these sessions is to collaborate, and I request participants to get in touch with the speakers so that you can collaborate in future for your research.
Thank you all. Have a nice lunch. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Oh.